welcome to the TFO next morning, where we're going to be going over everything that happened during Week 11 here in the Tecmo Fantasy Owners League. So let's start off with a nice recap. On Thursday Night Football, we saw the 8-Bit Brigade take on the Hollywood Heroes in an epic rematch that saw the Heroes gain the victory, Brigade 13, Heroes 21. Then on the Saturday Night Special, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Torturers took on the Nocturne Maniacs, and the Torturers unleashed the Super Shredder. Torturers 38 points, Maniacs 17. Then for the Sunday afternoon games, we have the Weapon X's took on the Raider All-Stars, with the X's edging them out, X's 28, All-Stars 24. The Celestial Defenders taking on the G.I. Joe in a shutout. The Defenders are victorious, 42, G.I. Joe 0. Boxhead Capers faced off against the World's Warriors, and the Capers just came up shy, 23 to Warriors 24. Venture Industries battled against the South Jersey Slashers. Industries was only able to get a field goal, while the Slashers got 24 points and the victory. Racial Slurs fought off against the Greek Legends, and the Slurs were put in their place, 10 points to the Legends, 24. The Stellar Offenders fought against the Lost Survivors, and the Offenders offended with 26 points. Survivors only were able to get 14. The WWF Hoffs took on the Pallet Pokeballers, and the Hoffs came up short again, 17, with the Ballers getting 21 in the victory. Westeros Guardians took on the Champs Chumps, and the Guardians were able to get one over here, 35 to Chumps 14. Rap Kings faced off against the Hoovians, and the Kings just couldn't do it here. They only had 7. The defensive Hoovians were able to get 24 and the win. Robot Masters fought off against the DBZ squad, and the Masters came close but weren't able to do it. They only got 28 points. The squad had 35. All-American Alkies taking on the Unicorns, and the major offense of the Alkies shut out that Unicorn defense. Alkies had 28, Unicorns had 7. And on the Sunday Night Football, the Beer Gods took on the Azrothian Assassins, and as they've been doing all season, the Beer Gods dominated. Beer Gods 31, Assassins 0. And that takes us into our current standings after Week 11. For the Bad Snap, the Stellar Offenders and the Hollywood Heroes are on top. Both have 7 and 3. Boxhead Capers and Lost Survivors are 6 and 4. And the Hoovians are in the back, 4 and 6. The Bad Crackle division, we see the Beer Gods on top, 8 and 2. Weapon X's and DBZ are in second with 6 and 4. Raider All-Stars are down there with 4 and 6. And bringing up the bottom is the Azrothian Assassins, 2 and 8. For the Bad Pop division, the 8-Bit Brigade is on top, 5 and 5. Racial Slurs and TMNT Torturers are in second with 4 and 6. And the Nocturne Maniacs are in the back with 3 and 7. For the Mad Snap division, the World's Warriors is on top, 6, 3 and 1. In second is Venture Industries, 6 and 4. And tied in the back there is the WWF Hoffs and the Rainbow Unicorns. Both of them are at 3 and 7. For the Mad Crackle division, the All-American Alcoholics and the Greek Legends are on the top, 6 and 4. Champs Chumps are in second with 5 and 5. Westeros Guardians back there 4 and 6, and the Robot Masters are unfortunately 1 and 9. And for the Mad Pop division, the South Jersey Slashers and the Rap Kings are on top, 7 and 3. Defenders are back in second there, 6, 3 and 1. Pokemon Pokeballers are 5 and 5. And the G.I. Joe is bringing up the rear, 2 and 8. So now we're going to hit up the injury report. Lots of people injured this week. People that aren't returning that are out. The Great Gonzo for the Boxhead Capers, a great returner. Hollywood Heroes Charlie Kelly, a great tight end. The Stellar Offenders is missing Darth Maul, and that is going to hurt them bad. Speaking of being hurt, the Weapon X's have the Wolverine out, and that is just horrid for them. The Bum is out for the Racial Slurs, and that's going to be costly, just like Brock Sampson for Venture Industries. Sir Lancel, a hell of a RB2, is out for Westeros Guardians. Copy Robot still out for those Robot Masters. He just can't seem to stay healthy. Vash T Stampede for the Celestial Defenders. Their quarterback's out. That could hurt them going forward, just like the Docile Blastoise for the Pokemons. They're out as well. Men returning next week. We got the Roddy Piper for the Hollywood Heroes coming back. Princess Pocahontas for the Rainbow Unicorns. King Agamemnon for the Greek Legends. King Priam for the Greek Legends. Ninja Snake Eyes for G.I. Joe. And Adam MCA of the Rat Kings. Hopefully those people that are coming back will do awesome, and those that are injured, well, hopefully they'll get better and come back soon. Okay, so instead of doing a top 5 this week, I got some grief last week for my mid-season review, because I went ahead and talked about if the playoffs happened this week, what would happen. I gave my personal opinions. Some people's don't think my personal opinions are what's going to happen. So this week I thought about doing the same thing, but now we're going to go by the stats we currently have. So previous games will determine championships. So currently, here is how the playoffs would look if we were going into the playoff season today. So the Beer Gods are the number 1 seed. They're at the bottom there on the bad side. The Defenders are the number 2 seed. They're up there at the top. On the mad side, we got the South Jersey Slashers are the number 1 seed. They're down there at the bottom right. And the World's Warriors are the 2nd seed, and they're in the top right. So let's hit it up with the bad side first. And here I'll even show you what their records are currently. And then, so we've got the wild card games, which would be the Hollywood Heroes taking on the Boxhead Capers and the Weapon X's taking on the 8-Bit Brigade. Drum roll, please. Bam. So for game 1, Hollywood Heroes versus the Boxhead Capers, these guys met in week 9. Hollywood Heroes was able to get the victory. It was 21-42. So with that win, I think the Hollywood Heroes will be able to beat the Boxhead Capers during this matchup. Now for the 8-Bit Brigade taking on the Weapon X's, this was a little more difficult because they haven't played this season, but they have 5 teams similar over the last 10 games. And based on those 5 teams that they share, the 8-Bit Brigade was 3-2 and the Weapon X's were 3-2. But the 8-Bit Brigade had a negative 17 differential, and the Weapon X's had a positive 37 differential. So I'm having them move on to the Elite 8. And now that's going to bring us into round 2. Drum roll, please. Bam. So the first matchup, we have the Stellar Offenders taking on the Hollywood Heroes. These guys have actually met twice. They met in week 4 where the Offenders beat the Heroes, and they met in week 10 where the Heroes beat the Offenders. But after you add up all the points they scored, the Offenders have a plus 4 points on the Hollywood Heroes this season, so they get the edge and move on for the Final 4. The Beer Gods taking on the Weapon X's. They've only met once this season, and the Beer Gods were victorious in week 5, 31-28. So they're getting to move on to the Final 4 as well. And that brings us into the bad championship. The Beer Gods taking on the Stellar Offenders. They have not played this season, but they have 2 teams similar over the last 10 games. Drumroll please. Based on the teams that they've played, the Beer Gods are victorious. So the Beer Gods are 1-1 with teams that they've played, that the Offenders have played, and the Offenders are 1-2. So it was a little harder to determine who would win. The Beer Gods had a negative 8 differential. The Offenders had a negative 10 differential. This really could swing either way, but based on the differential, we're giving the move to the Beer Gods, and they're moving on to the finals. So now let's jump over to the Mad here. We can see all the Mad records and their placeage for this imaginary playoffs. So let's have a drum roll and go right into round 1. Bam! So the first game is the Rap Kings taking on the Celestial Defenders. They met during week 5 and the Defenders shut out the Rap Kings 38-0. So the Defenders move on to the Elite 8. Then we have the All-American Alkies taking on the Greek Legends. They have met twice. Week 7, the Greek Legends were victorious. Week 9, the All-American Alkies were victorious. But once you add up all the points, the Greek Legends have a plus 1 point advantage on the All-American Alkies this season. So that 1 point gives them the edge and moves them Greek Legends on to the Elite Eight. So now that's bringing us into round 2. Another drum roll. So we got the World's Warriors taking on the Celestial Defenders. They met during week 1 in the only TFO tie. So we got to look at similar teams they've played against. They have played 3 similar teams over the last 10 games. The Defenders are 4-0 against those 3 teams. The World's Warriors are 1-2. And the Defenders have an amazing 132 plus differential compared to the World's Warriors 14 plus differential. So the Celestial Defenders, based on that differential tiebreaker, they're moving on to our Final 4. The South Jersey Slashers taking on the Greek Legends. That's another interesting matchup because they've not played this season. And they have one team similar. And that is the Celestial Defenders. South Jersey Slashers are 0-2 against the Defenders. Greek Legends are 0-1. But the South Jersey Slashers, they have a negative 52 differential. The Greek Legends have a negative 24 differential. Even if you doubled that differential, South Jersey still wouldn't be beating them. And so I gotta give the edge to the Greek Legends, moving them Legends on to the Final 4. So that makes Greek Legends taking on the Celestial Defenders in our MAD Championship. And the victory goes to the Celestial Defenders. As we just noted a moment ago, the Greek Legends fought them in week 6, and the Defenders were victorious 45-21. So they're moving on to our imaginary Odin Bowl. And there it is, down to the finals. So I'm predicting, based on the stats given after week 11, it will be the Beer Gods taking on the Celestial Defenders in the Odin Bowl. And we have a clear-cut winner here. It is the Beer Gods. The Beer Gods fought off against the Celestial Defenders during week 10, and the Beer Gods were victorious 17-10. So based on the stats given, if everybody was playing each other in this manner, and we went by previous victories, the Beer Gods are projected based on these numbers to be the Odin Bowl champion. Now maybe you don't agree with that. I didn't agree with that last week. I said the Celestial Defenders were going to be the new Odin Bowl champions. People disagree with me, but they disagree with me all the time. You know what one thing interesting here is? Based on my opinion and based on fact, Defenders made it to the championships in both. So that's mighty interesting going forward. And the see you next Tecmo. Check the time here. We're only at 13 minutes. Let's talk a little stuff here. So let me pull up some interesting stats here. So I guess things to look forward going forward here. The top 3 offenses based on yards right now. World's Warriors is number 1. Celestial Defenders is number 2. And the All-American Alkies are number 3 for total offenses for yards. Now for total defenses based on yards, the top 3, the number 1 is the Beer Gods. The number 2 is the Celestial Defenders, and the number 3 is the Stellar O-Fenders. So one thing really interesting to notice there is that the Warriors, Defenders, Alkies, Beer Gods, and Offenders, they all look like they're pretty much cinches here for going forward into the playoffs. But don't let your guards down, team. Even though you're high ranked and everything, it takes one Tecmo god to make you slip. So keep it going. Leading passer, the number 1 leading passer after week 11 is Sun Tzu of the World's Warriors. He only has a 2 rating point advantage over John Locke of the Lost Survivors. So going forward, it's going to be interesting to see them battle it out for the number 1 quarterback. For leading receivers, well, if you're a great quarterback, you have to have a great wide receiver, and the World's Warriors have that in General Patton. He's number 1 by over 300 yards. Very impressive. Running back wise, Al Bundy is still number 1. He's actually only winning by almost 70 yards. Michael Myers is right behind him. So Bundy needs to keep running hard. Leading scorers, Al Bundy's number 1 in scorers. He's got a 3-touchdown lead over Michael Myers in that category. For TFO field goals, Yingling Lager's still impressing, had 12 over the season, and Jack Frost is only 2 behind him with 10 for the Nocturne Maniacs. Leading interceptors, Leatherhead of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Torturers, 5 interceptions and 1 touchdown interception. Very impressive. There are a lot that have 4, but not many have touchdown interceptions too. Leading sackers, Jason Voorhees of the South Jersey Slashers is killing. He has 26 sacks. That is 10 more than the next nearest player. Way to go, Jason Voorhees. What a year for the Friday the 13th star. Leading punters, Blaziken still at the top. He has almost a half a yard punt average better than Jack of the Nocturne Maniacs. So as more punts are getting in there, it's interesting to see how that's all fallen. Punt returners, Ronda Rousey of the Champs Chumps is number 1. She has almost a 2-yard average above Tinkerbell, the Rainbow Unicorns. Tim Brown's number 3. He actually has a punt touchdown, the only punt touchdown of the season. And for kickoff returners, Freddy Krueger of the South Jersey Slashers has almost a 5-yard average above Ron Jeremy, who's second. Ron Jeremy has 2 kickoff return touchdowns this season, the most of anyone this season. So, way to go, Ron Jeremy. They say you suck, but you only suck yourself. So, we appreciate it. And, I'll give a special shout out to Sean Costanza of the TFO Fantasy Football. He is currently leading by 10 points. He has 70 points. Evil Dave Fogel is number 2 of TFO Fantasy Football with 60. Chris McLeese is number 3 with 57. Jim Schock is number 4 with 54. And Tony the Bum, the Racial Slurs owner, is number 5 with 50 points. So TFO Fantasy Football has been interesting all season. I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm losing to Clayton right now. He's our TFO FF Fantasy Football Commissioner. And so we're having a little fantasy football commish off each week. And he's actually beaten me by almost 80 points right now. So it's very interesting to see how that's going. Only 6 more weeks left of the TFO Fantasy Football. We are ending fantasy football at the end of 17. So when the regular season's over, TFO FF is ending as well. So be prepared for that. I'll also be calling the 16-bit bar in the next week or so, reserving our spot for the Odin Bowl this season. Currently, the Odin Bowl has a tentative schedule. I'm actually pulling that up right now. I should have had that up before, but things happen. What do you want from me? So, we're going to try to do it on a Saturday morning, or a Sunday morning, on a Sunday morning, just like we have the last few years. We've been at the 16 bar since season 2, when Chris McLeese won the Ifrit Bowl. We were there in season 3 for the Titan Bowl when the Cleveland Steamers' Ryan Anderson was victorious. So this year, season 4, we're planning to be back. It is tentatively scheduled for July 2nd. July 2nd. So, and that might change. I have to call them and verify. Actually, July 2nd is a Saturday. So, I'm assuming July 3rd is what we're looking for. I do not know if that's a date that's going to be accessible to them based on it being the 4th of July weekend. So it's either going to be July 3rd or July 10th. That is what I'm going to say. If it's like it was last year, we're going to show up when they open, basically. We'll start recording. We'll watch. I'm planning on having some special stuff this year. I've been working with the TFO commish, Ryan Anderson, on some things that are coming up. There are some things that I don't think people are going to be happy about. I think there are some things that people are going to be thrilled about. We are going to be honoring some of our heroes from the past. I think it's important that with TFO we remember the greatness that was and we celebrate it. We've had a lot of great competitors here in TFO, and sometimes I think we measure it only by the TFO championship. And there are some players out there that they surpass being just a champion. And so I think it's important that we honor those. I'd also like to go ahead and honor all the best teams that have ever been in TFO. And we're just going to have some special things going forward. So keep a tabs on our website, tfofootball.weebly.com. I update it pretty much every week. Try to put as much updated information like stats, injury report, things of that nature, the links for the scheduled games. I try to make it a repository of information for you guys. So, and that's 20 minutes. I think that's a good place to leave off. I would like to go ahead and thank some of our sponsors. I always enjoy the great music of Sour Blood. Nick Dean, owner of the Stellar Offenders and a TFO stalwart. He was the first ever victor of a TFO game. He beat the Hollywood Heroes as the Sith Warriors in the very first TFO Thursday Night Football that ever happened back in 2013. So make sure you go listen to some Sour Blood. They're hard rockin', face melting, amazing. One product that you really need to keep your tabs out for is MMACCG.com. Rick Pittman, owner of the Champs Chumps, he is doing some amazing work there in the collectible card game area. He is designing an MMA card game. You thought Ronda Rousey was only on his team and Chuck Liddell was only on his team because they like him? No, they're sponsors, brother. So go check that game out. It is currently in its beta phase. It hasn't been publicly released yet, but you can check out their website and their forums, and they'll give you some good information going forward. Also, don't forget to eat your Defender O's. Chris McLeese and his Defender O's, they're delicious. Now in frosted, fruity, and super mega marshmallowy. Just greatness. And don't forget the competitor of the Defender O's, the Meanies. The Meanies are just a delicious cereal. Last week they had Al Bundy on the cover. Who knows who's going to be on the cover this week? But I'll tell you, when you eat your Defender O's and you eat your Meanies, you get a balanced breakfast. It's just that good. Don't forget to fill it up with some Bum Potion number 9, the official drink of Tecmo Fantasy Online Fantasy Football. The Bum was able to secure his team the racial slurs this season because he was able to power up and win the contest, and he did that via some Bum Potion number 9. So don't forget to drink your Bum Potion number 9. And heck, don't forget about previous sponsors like the DDP Yoga, Bitsmack.com. You know, those are some great sponsors from our past, and I always like to, salute them a little bit and let them know, hey, we appreciate you, because I appreciate you. And you know who else appreciates you? The Vintage Game Vikings. I know that some people may find them crass, some people might find them ass, but I tell you, some of the content they have on their website, YouTube for Vintage Game Viking, that shit's just hilarious. Go watch some of their epic 8-bit reviews, some of their thrift store finds, John Blog, FK, The Bum, Ryan Cox, the whole lot of them. Just great gentlemen. Just greatness. So, and Raw Deal. Fuck it. I like Raw Deal. So, and most of you guys played Raw Deal in some capacity. So, wow, man. So week 12 is next week. I'm not sure what we're going to do about a Wednesday night football. I know that's coming up. I think I'm going to record it tomorrow, to be honest, with probably some of the people at work. We'll see how that all works out. I know that I'm busy Tuesday and Wednesday, so that's going to make it a little difficult. So it's going to have to be Monday in some capacity. So we'll see how that all is. And then we have a Thursday night football this week as well. I haven't recorded that either. So we'll see how that is. Ryan Anderson, I'll get a hold of you, brother. We'll try to get all those finished up going forward. I do want to tell everybody that I do have all of the games finished. I do not know all the results or anything like that. I try to keep myself in the dark as much as possible this season because I have more fun when I don't know what's happening. It's just plain and simple. So, but that means that all the games are going to be uploaded soon, which means if anything happens, at least we know the results for this season. So that's a whew, off my back. So the season of Odin, it's been a great season. And I've enjoyed it. Oh, yeah, I will be posting at some point. People have been asking about this. We will be voting on the best helmet this season, best new helmet this season. So don't worry, that is coming. And then we'll do some other voting stuff like that coming up. I am aware of the Pro Bowl I will be looking at Pro Bowlers going forward. So players really need to start breaking out. We only have a limited amount of space on the Pro Bowl roster. And so that's usually the best way for us to measure a person's success is Pro Bowl. And it is something that we're using as a metric to look at great players and decide who is a legend here in TFO. So, all right, well, that's good. And that catchphrase I say all the time, the one that y'all like, see you next Tecmo.